Hey everyone, this is Raina Carrillo with Purpose and Passion. You know, I'm all about educating, empowering, and teaching awareness, and also interviewing inspiring people. My mentor, Candace Barr, gave me a jewel today, and it is, I would call her Miss Pixie, but she goes by Pixie. And I think she's a fabulous energy. I could just see already from the other side of the screen. And I'm just so grateful to interview a woman that is an entrepreneur in many levels because it's just not one business, it's multiple. So hi Pixie, how you doing?
I'm so wonderful. Thank you. Fabulous to be here.
Awesome. Well, take our viewers through memory lane, like, you know, where are your parents from? You know, where did you grow up and how was your childhood?
Oh gosh. My long roots are Italian. My extended family's all from
Yay.
Italy, but I am third generation Italian here in America. And I grew up in the northwest corner of Connecticut, the sleepy woods of Connecticut, which was a beautiful place to actually have a childhood. So, back in the day, through immigration on Ellis Island in New York, the Italians came and managed their space throughout the greater New York area and the islands, Long Island, Schenectady. And then my family moved over into Connecticut. And so that's where I grew up.
That is awesome. Okay, well, I love Italian people. I go to San Diego and it's called Little Italy. I love the food. I love the culture. I love the people. And I love the Sicilians.
So that's what I get. My passion comes from my Sicilianness. They say, oh, another little Sigi. I've got so much red blood running through my hair and my veins. So I'm
Yes.
definitely part of that Sigi passionate people. And I'm so proud of that too. I'm get accused of being loud or yelling or being excited. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is just
Sounds like Mexicans. That's why I like Italians.
And I love that you said San Diego because it's my favorite place. If I could pick anywhere else to live, that would be where I'd want to go. And I love when I get to go. I love San Diego. It's so
Wow.
spiritual.
Yes, my favorite part of San Diego is a little island next to it called Coronado Island.
Oh, yes, of
Oh
course.
my God, it's beautiful. It
Yes,
doesn't even feel like you're in California. It feels like
I
you're in
know.
another state.
It's
So I
so,
just,
I love it. I love the
yeah.
Hotel Coronado. I love that whole area.
Yes, I went there
Yes.
for my honeymoon because I Googled ghost. You know, I have a story
Ah,
about ghost, and I was 6 years old when I was able to experience seeing one. And through my life, I've experienced many of them, you know. And so anything with ghost stories, a lot of people tell me, Raina, why do you watch scary movies? And I said, because I've experienced it. And I like seeing movies like that. It has nothing to do with demonic things. It's just stuff that I experience and I want to hear other people's stories.
so it's amazing. I don't know if you realize that I have a doctorate in metaphysics. Like that is my space. I've spent most of my lifetime studying metaphysics. In fact, being in the
Wow.
spirit space, I now say we're not selling spirits, we're selling inspiration. So I love anything to do with uh, just evolvement and being
Yes.
engaged and open to what the universe has to tell us. And it's a wonderful way to live life, awakened and open to the
Yes.
spirituality around us.
Yes. My people that I know that are spiritual, they always tell me I got the gifts from my Creole side.
Mhm.
My great grandmother, she had the gift, and her mother was definitely. It was interesting. She was Catholic because she was raised Catholic, but she used to sell spells and stuff like that. And so it was interesting. So people always say, "Oh, your ancestor, you got it from your Creole side." And so I'm very intuitive, and I used to be kind of scared of it because you know when you're a child seeing things that other people don't get to see, you kind of isolate yourself or think you're crazy or think something is wrong with you, you know. And then
I
when you
do.
yeah, and then when you find out that in the Bible, they have people that have these gifts. And in the church, they say it's called the gift of discernment, discerning spirits. And I found out that I have these gifts. And now I'm not afraid because I truly believe now that God gave me these gifts to help people. And so I'm just really excited about your education on that part, you know?
Say a similar story. So I'm audiovoyant. So I have always been hearing what I call the voice of God since I was 2 years
Yes.
old. And I used to beg my parents and my grandparents to take me to church. I always wanted to be in church because that's where I could hear the voice the loudest. And
Hmm.
I thought everybody heard what I was hearing. It wasn't until later when I grew up that I would, people would ask me a question and I would just have the answer. And they were like, well, how do you know? And I just asked God. I would just tune into my intuitiveness and
Yes.
I would have that answer. And still today, I can ask a question and hear very, very loudly and clearly from another voice outside of myself that is giving me that guidance. So that I love the gift of audiovoyance. I also have been doing automatic writing since fourth
Mm.
grade is the earliest recollection I have of channeling my guides and doing writings that I've kept volumes of legal pads of my writing since I was in
Wow.
grade school. I would love to be able to take those and to translate them into the written word so that people could actually read them because some of the guides that come through me, their handwriting is so different based on their
Hmm.
cultures that it's almost illegible sometimes, but I know what was being communicated so I can read it and I can understand what they were trying to say. So I'd like to
Wow.
transpose all of those so that I could share the writings. They're just absolutely amazing. And even for myself, when I now go back 2, 3 decades and look at the work, and I'm like, why didn't I listen back then? I did, they were telling
Yes.
me, giving me the words of wisdom that unlock the universe, but I didn't have enough life experience to actually understand the words they were trying to communicate with me. So,
Wow.
the universal truth, it is the universal truth for a reason. So I would love to be able to share some of that.
I would love to just hear it, you know. It's just interesting. Like when people have certain gifts, you know, people are afraid of what's not so-called normal, you know. And I think we learn from everybody and everybody's experiences and stuff like that. And so, do you have children?
I do have children. I gave birth to 9 children, 6 boys and 3 girls.
Beautiful. Nice. Oh my
And
God, you're a goddess.
and I have 8 grandchildren.
That is such a blessing. So, who is the lucky man?
I'm single.
Oh, no. She's like, I'm single.
I'm single. I can't. I explore. It's one of the things that I'm always trying to reconcile in my own heart. Is at
Yes.
this point in my career, it's why am I alone? And I have to I'm not a victim, right? So I
Yes.
absolutely know that the universe is working through you and for you. Things are not happening to you, but
Yes.
you're creating your life. And I always advise that if you want to know what you're committed to in life, just look at your life because thoughts become things. This is how we
Hmm.
manifest the world around us. So then I say to myself, but I wouldn't have chosen to be alone. So why? Because I can't blame anybody else.
Yes.
Why did I want this? What's the lesson that I have? And I hear my guide say to me very loud and clear, oh, it's easy to love one man, but to accept the role of the divine creator to love all of mankind is a very different mission.
You are correct.
And I think I am on the mission to love mankind. And so
Yeah.
the other distractions are at bay for me at the moment so that I could focus on delivering some empowering messages to the world.
Oh my God, that is so beautiful. You know, I can kind of relate to that uh, comment because, you know, I've been married for 16 years and it's not easy.
Hmm.
And some women can, you know, hang in there, right, in marriage, and then some women just can't. And so it's just hearing that it's the first time that I've heard, you know, and so it just makes me think like it's interesting, it's soaking in, you know, in me. And I love hearing that, because there's gonna there's gonna be people that are single that don't understand why they're single, or they don't understand why they're alone. And I always tell people, when you're single or so-called alone, you're not really alone. You're not really alone. And some people just cannot, I guess, grasp that they're actually not alone. And I always say
Yes.
the creator's with us.
Well, the cliche all alone, alone is all one, right? If you break
Yes.
out the words. So relationships in general are challenging. And it really, to be in the human body and to put on
Hmm.
this human suit and wear it well, it is a conscious choice to override the lower vibrational thoughts that drive how humans operate, primarily out of fear. And so
Yes.
we're self centered, we operate out of fear, and it's because of this self preservation mechanism that's instilled in our DNA to stay alive and to survive. But once we've been able to figure out that it's really up to us to be able to not only survive, but thrive, then we get to choose which of those thoughts and vibrations to act upon. I lose my patience all the time. Patience for
Yes.
me is a virtue that is highly overrated. And I feel like it's my lack of patience that has got me to where I am today. But I do know that I have to operate out of integrity and loyalty to my own self and understanding what my purpose is. We talk about passion and purpose. And I think that those two terms get thrown together too often and
Yes, they
then
do.
very misconstrued.
Hmm.
So passion is less important to me than understanding purpose. Look,
Yes.
it comes and goes, it flares and wanes. We're going to wake up on top of the world some days and not want to get out of bed on the others. That is partially a function of the environment, what's externally happening to us, and our internal hormones and our thought processes.
Hmm.
So we don't have much control over all that. It's a lot of gymnastics to dissect and unpack that and break that all down. Your purpose, however, never leaves you. Never, ever. It doesn't
Yes.
matter what the external conditions are. If you're attached and related to your inner purpose, you can quickly, like this, just say, what is my purpose? For me, it's unconditional love and possibility. And where I usually get out of alignment and things are falling apart, I can
Hmm.
zone in and go, am I identifying with my own purpose here? And I know what that is. And if you spend the time to identify what is your true purpose, you can get back into alignment like this. Passion, you can't force it to happen. When you're just not passionate on a particular day, you
Hmm.
cannot turn it on. There's all kinds of tricks to help trick your body into awakening your state. And those are all great. But at the end of the day, if you don't feel it, you don't feel it. And so you think about how often you've tried to bring somebody else out of a slump. It's almost impossible. And it's the same to
Yeah.
bring yourself out of a slump. So you have to love yourself through those ups and downs and ebbs and flows. The best thing you could do, though, is identify with your true purpose. I actually do an exercise in one of my courses about going deep and trying to identify who is that soul inside of you, because your soul knows what your purpose is and what you're here
Yes.
for. And it doesn't matter which planet you partake in putting yourself in, which lifetime it is, which culture it is, what genre it is, what your age level is, your socioeconomic step, none of that matters if you can truly
Wow.
identify with your soul's true purpose.
Man, that is super inspiring, because I'm going to tell you something, a little story about myself, because I'm going to tell you why it's inspiring. Because when I was born, I was born, to two young parents, and their lifestyle was, gang stuff, right? That was their lifestyle. But they were trying to go in the transition of being parents when I was born. And
Hmm.
so I grew up, in Inglewood, California, in the 80s, 90s, and it was a gang culture, in Inglewood. So I remember all I wanted to do was to either two things: be the president of the United States when I was a child, and a ballerina.
Good one.
Interesting, interesting, but that's what I wanted to be. But in reality, I ended up becoming a part of the gang culture. There was no ballerinas in Inglewood. There was no really after school programs to speak life into us. And obviously, there was no anything political to teach people how to be Republican or Democrat, in school in general. And so I end up in this crazy lifestyle. And then fast forward in 97, I was almost killed and went through a spiritual awakening. And that spiritual awakening, I thought I was going to hell because I was falling down a black tunnel. Then I looked down and it's the Virgin Mary's hands and her turquoise cloth. And I accepted death and I was fine. I was happy that I was going to go cross over. But then when I opened my eyes, my friend had the gun to my face, still pulling the trigger, and the bullets weren't coming out. And then my mom came and he saw my mom coming. He ran. My mom tells me, like, what's wrong with you? You look like you saw a ghost. I was mute because I was like, you should have saw me with my head blown off. Like, what the hell just happened, And that was the day that I talked to God and I said, you know what, God, because I was angry with him. I blamed him for being molested. And so I told God that night, I said, if you don't show yourself spiritually or physically or something, you're going to lose me, meaning I'm going to prison or I'm going to get killed for what I'm about to do. And he was there for me spiritually. And that transition of changing my life and becoming a gang interventionist. And I was 15 when it came out my mouth. When you talk about purpose, I didn't know my purpose. I just knew I was making obituaries in junior high. I knew I was going to get killed at the age of 18, which was, in 97, I was 18. And so to see me now, I didn't really understand my purpose, right, on earth. But I knew I had a passion, and the passion was always being I didn't like to bully people. I didn't like people to bully others. So I always wanted to protect the underdog, right?
Yes.
I loved helping poor people, right? People that didn't have enough. I don't know. I just had a good heart. So I feel like my purpose is to help people, right? But my passion, I didn't have a passion. And I was 15 years old when I told the mayor at the time and the chief of police of Inglewood, I don't know where it came from, but it just popped out of my mouth. And I just remember I was talking about police issues, how they treat us like, we're gang members and they don't look at us as humans or Inglewood residents. And one day I'm going to be mayor of Inglewood. It just happened. I don't know how it happened, but it did, Pixie, it did. And here I am today, 2022, running for mayor of Inglewood.
Excellent.
It's crazy. So when I hear you talk about that, it's like, I'm following this purpose now because I'm like, okay, this is my purpose. January 10th, 1979, when my mom birthed me in Centinela Hospital, she birthed the mayor of Inglewood. Yeah. And I just, now, it's just like, wow, now that I'm interviewing, it's not even about entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about that because I want you to share everything that you're doing because I'm all about empowering, inspiring through my guests' stories. But now I'm learning, Pixie, that I'm connected to you spiritually. You have this beautiful energy and how you talk and how you articulate things. It's very soothing, like in the Native American culture, we say that our elders, and our elders is like people with wisdom and they're wise. And just hearing you talk is just like food for the soul. Food for the soul.
Well, I appreciate that. Energy is neither transferred, or it's not, it can never be destroyed, right? It's simply transferred. It's not created. It's not destroyed. It's simply transferred. And we know this as a scientific fact. Pythagoras was the father of mathematics, and he knew from the weight of atomic energy that the digits and the numbers in the world, or this is his thought process, that this all carried weighted energy in the world. So even from a long time ago, the greatest scientists, theologians and philosophers have known that somehow our energy is all connected and that we truly are all one with the rays of light that govern our universe and what we are able to see here on our planet. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of interesting to know how you see relationships between people that are twins, for example, or parents and children, that if there's something wrong, that they intuitively know and feel and carry that space. So when you step into a leadership role, you are drawing, believe it or not, from all of the energy of the leaders that went before you, from the
Wow.
wisdom of the ancients. You're absolutely already drawing in that space. And to whom much is given, much is required, right? So when you step up and you say, okay, I am going to be totally personally accountable and responsible for what's been placed on my shoulders, and I'm
Mm.
stepping into that position and owning it. It's true that you've been being conditioned for that since birth, and you knew it. When you call these things out, they're not that haphazard. You're calling them out as an intuitive about what your future is going to be. And it's
Yes.
so amazing, right? We entertain ourselves when we see it catch up and come full into fruition, and I'm like, here it is, this is it, and they're real, and now I can touch it and it's tangible and it's happening. Well, everything that you're speaking now, the same thing will be 20 years from now, right? So we
Yes.
have to be very cautious about the words that we put out into the universe. And I'm going to tell you, as a hot-headed Sicilian Italian, I will call out a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh, I wish I had not said that. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing my mood ring. I wear
And
mood
it's
rings.
blue.
And it's funny that it's matching my shirt. That's the space of tranquility. And I'm trying to be at peace, and I've calmed myself down now to have this
Yes.
conversation about peacefulness. And sure enough, my
It's
mood ring
blue.
is turning blue. So it's a reflection of the energy that we're carrying simply out of our words. And, Dr. Masaru Emoto, he was a Japanese scientist. He passed away now, but some of the most incredible work that I've ever witnessed or studied. But he believed that through the power and intention of positivity and prayer, you could actually
Mm.
change dirty water into clean water. So that was the work that he did. And now it's been featured everywhere. I mean, you can look this up, Dr. Masaru Emoto. They featured it in Concourse C of the Atlanta terminal at the airport. If you could see all of the sliced crystals of frozen water crystals with
Wow.
positive words on them and negative words on them, and the breakdown in the chemistry of the frozen crystals. It's amazing. I've seen his work replicated in rice science experiments where they fill containers with rice and they add the water, and then they paste positive words on the containers and negative words on the containers. The positive
Wow.
rice gets fluffy and gross. The negative word rice turns black and red and moldy. So we have to be careful about the words that we use. We really
Yes.
do. I went so far as to put thank you in 300 languages on the packaging of one of my spirits line called Thanks, because I am an ordained minister, and it's corny, but I have a rabbi, a priest, and a monk bless my spirits. And before I send them out into the universe, you don't have to announce, I'm praying for you, I'm praying for you, I'm praying for
Yes.
you. You just need to extend that prayer. And this works even talking to your plants, right? You can just talk to your plants and your plants can feel you. And that's also
Yes.
been proven that
Yes.
just these positivities, my water pitchers, the same thing. I put amazing positive nomenclature on them so that you're just little phrases that remind you of how positive things are. And I wish that was in more of our packaging, because that
Yeah.
power and that intention, it's already scientifically proven. So we should be embracing this everywhere.
Wow. Well, let's talk about entrepreneurship and your businesses, because it's important to share, your story, like how you even thought about, entrepreneurship, and how you start to even think or manifest a business and then making it reality, and, and how you're helping people.
I'm up to 12 corporations right now, and it seems like a lot. And even I'm feeling the pressure, but so many of them support the diversity roles that I've opened up in the marketplace, that there was a need. There was just so many needs that I kept trying to open up companies to fill the needs, to peripherally support the strength of the company I had just started before it.
Yes.
And so it just goes to show you that there's so much room for women's empowerment and women in business. And we really do need to encourage women women to step into these roles because nobody can do it like a woman can. And we really do need to have that out there. I started when I was 9 years old, and I don't think you can make an entrepreneur, honestly. I think
Yeah.
you're born with either the eye to be aware and astute, right? You're awake. And I just paid attention to everything. And I was literally sweeping up hair for 5 cents an hour in the salon, the floors of the salon of my cousin's beauty salon. And she would do the older women would come in with their bouffant hairs and sit
Yes.
under the hair dryer and get it all teased up. And I had the discovery of seeing an old Avon book, and a woman would come in, same, 70 something years old, and leave the little book with the little lipsticks. And I said, what is this about? And I watched all those women. I'll take that red. I'll take that pink. I'll take that purple. And I thought, this is too easy. You just come in here and you offer lipstick and women
Yes.
buy it. And I was so engaged in that opportunity that I said, I want to do this. So I went home to my mom and I said, I want to go, I want to sell Avon. So she brought me to a meeting. And of course I was 9, so they wouldn't accept me. But my mom, I convinced her to sign up for me. And I said, you don't have to do
Yes.
anything. I will do all the work. You just need to sign up. Do you know that I've gotten my 50-year pin for selling Avon? And I was angry because I lost the few years until they would let me come on full time because it was in my mother's name. And when they transitioned the account to my name, I lost those few years. But that's how long I have been an entrepreneur. And then I just,
Wow.
I really, I got an education. I thought I wanted to be a teacher, and I started in the education process. And then I was recruited away from education by a major financial institute and started teaching financial planning, business development, and math to the adults instead of to the children. And I kind of never looked back. And every time there was a need, I just created a corporation and opened it and got it running. And mergers and acquisitions, real estate development, financial planning, that's really all my background. But I got no accidents, right? I got pushed into the spirit space and I came kicking and screaming. This is about 15 years ago, maybe a little longer now. And I said, what am I going to do in this industry? I'm an ordained minister who doesn't drink. I put ice in my red wine. I'm the least likely person to be able to make a difference in this space. What do I have to say? Now fast forward and I'm a leading expert in the industry, and I'm making a difference by there's so much money, so much money in all of the vice industries. I say sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? All of this stuff generates so much money in entertainment, food, and beverage. It's just all together collectively a big industry. But there's
Mhm.
nobody really within the industry that are leveraging those sources of revenue as shift backs to be able to empower communities. And so that's what we did within our organization. We match our sales by giving back to our local communities. We call it sip and share. And we're able to raise sometimes thousands of dollars. One as recently as almost $40,000 through a Saturday evening I also started the American Comedy Guild with a friend, and she launched the Best Medicine Brigade. And we did a comedy show and opened that up and raised $40,000 for the homeless in South Carolina. So there's just so much that you can do by creating instant loyalty. That brand loyalty can be brought
Yes.
together if you unite cause marketing with the larger corporations and have them work together. There's so much more you can do for the community. And that's how I'm trying to generate prosperity through these industries. These industries would never be having the conversations that I'm having from within the space, because my heart is to be able to follow my purpose, which is unconditional love and possibility.
Wow. Well, I like the fact that you're helping people in the community, because I started my nonprofit 4 years ago, the Phoenix Rising Coalition, so I can give back to my alma mater, right? So it's 3 schools in Inglewood that I went to: Worthington Elementary, Monroe Junior High, and Morningside High School. And actually, yesterday was Monday was the backpack and school supply giveaway, and it was beautiful just to be outside with the tables and backpacks. My daughter Amara was with me. I was trying to take both of my twins, but they're interesting. They're like Leos. They are Leos, so they're interesting. So Amara, she loves to help, but she does not like to talk. And then Junior, her twin brother, he has a big heart, but then he kind of acts stuck up. And me, I'm like this Capricorn. So when I'm out in the community, I'm the happy face. I'm the person that is the go-getter that goes talk to people and say, come here, get these backpacks. And so I had Omara with me, and she was very like, I'm gonna go sit in the car. I already helped you set up, the table with backpacks. And then eventually she came out, and then the kids were really happy. And one thing that really touched my heart was one of the mothers. She was Polynesian, and she said, times is rough. And, I have 6 kids. So I'm just very grateful that you had backpacks with school supplies in them, because now I don't have to worry about that. I can focus on utility bills and food. And that right there is the reason why I love helping people, because, I know how it felt to grow up and just eat weenies and potatoes, or weenies with eggs and weenies and chorizo, just be all weenied out. I'm happy that I'm not a freaking weenie right now. You know what I mean? And then, but when I would go to my Aunt Barbara's house, she was the one with the money. And she had everything, luxury clothes. She was the Marilyn Monroe of our family. And so when we would go to her house, she would have, bacon and chicken. And she would make top robin noodle soup, the shrimp with real shrimp. And I'm like, what the heck? So when people share like how they're happy to have something, it brings me back to my childhood. Like, man, I remember like I was all weenied out. Only had one pair of shoes for the whole year. Had to take care of those shoes, So I love that you help, fundraise for the homeless. It's really, really important. When God blesses you, we should automatically bless others, in need. And I think it's just a natural, universal thing that we should all do as humans, is when we're blessed, we should be able to bless those that need as well.
Even from a self-centered perspective, the more you give, the more you get.
Yes.
I mean, it just feels so good. It nurtures the soul. And as women, that's how we operate. The more we nurture and give back, the more our own pheromones and hormones kick in, right?
Yes.
And so that's how we get our drug of a good drug of choice to be able to get ignited and turned on. And once you tune in and you're giving back like that, there's no stopping it. It just feels so good.
Yes. So can you name the 12 businesses and kind of talk about like what they are, is it?
Yes. Oh gosh, I don't know if I can name them all. I was like, sometimes I'm like,
or
I
some.
Yeah, because I start to relate them. I'm like, okay, I got 12 that time, but I got 10, then I got 11, then I got 9, then I got 13. I'm like, no, there's not 13. I know there's 12. Yes, I will. So there's Local Choice Inc., which was probably one of my first. Well, it wasn't my first. Channel by Channel was my first corporation in the coaching advantage, and that was about financial planning and giving back. And Channel by Channel was about reading a little bit. Local Choice Inc. began as a beverage incubator accelerator company. Out of that came Local Choice Spirits, Local Choice Distilleries. Then I acquired another distillery called the Striped Pig Distillery. Along the way, I needed to have a holding place, a holding company for my real estate, and I created Trailblazers Global Inc.
Nice.
And talk about, again, like that was like, I think 2013, and now that's pretty much my fastest growing company right now. So when you start to set things up, sometimes they're a little dormant as they come into their own metamorphosis. And then it's like, that's why I had that. Then I have Laughter Through Tears, which was a company and a website that I developed when the first .com space started coming back out in the early 90s. And that was to write a book that I was working on called Laughter Through Tears. Then I started Holy City Publishing. I purchased that company for then Skirt Magazine. Then I wanted to do more on the financials around Skirt, not just Skirt Lifestyle. So we created Skirt Smarts, which really is more about finance education for women. And then I recently got Sycamore Biopharma, which is the state's leading wellness company, focusing on research with anything cannabis related for preventative and curative diseases. Pixie Records and Studios, because I started building brands and developing. I needed to lend my expertise to talent as an agent and a manager, and I was getting these artists placed along with building their spirits and beverage brands. So I took over kind of the control of the management of the brands. Um, Oh, Local Choice Love, which is the nonprofit division of what we're doing at Local Choice, so that we can step in and kind of be the operations for that sip and share, or the pour it forward program that
Yes.
we're working on with Local Choice, the spirits company. Were you counting? Because I was like,
No, I was just all into it.
I'm like, then I'm like, oh, I forgot that one. Yeah. So it's frustrating to do. All of my companies except for one are C corporations,
Yes.
and it does get challenging to, fill out all of these applications. Fortunately, I have a tax practice, but it is challenging to be able to keep all the annual reports up to date, to keep
Yes.
everything with letters of good standing and good certificates of standing, and then do the actual formal annual tax returns. And then, of course, within the companies, especially in the beverage space, we've got reporting, federal excise tax reporting that happens on a monthly basis. And you've got production run reports. And because I'm licensed in almost every state, you've got to do the state licenses and annual
Wow.
reports to keep current in every state. So it is a lot.
Wow. Well, Pixie, you're a tough cookie. Okay. So I know you can handle it.
Yes.
So, how can our viewers find you on social media?
My Instagram is Pixie Paula Official, and that's Pixie. So Pixie Paula Official. It's the same on Facebook.
Mhm.
There's a Pixie Paula Official and a Paula Dezzutti on Facebook. And Twitter is the same. I would also love for people to take a look at the company. So it's Local Choice Spirits and the Striped Pig Distillery. And the one you're going to love so much is Skirt Magazine, because we're all women in skirts, right?
Yes.
And I do a column called Under the Skirt and Don't Skirt the Issue, where we can really talk about controversial issues that are out there. And then my podcast is Spiritually Speaking with Pixie Paula. So if you do Pixie Paula, it'll show up pretty much everywhere. But I would love
Yes.
to engage and interact. I think that's one thing that's unique about me, is I really want direct contact. Just like you said, it's the thing that turns me on and gets me excited, is that I'm
Yes.
helping, right? You're empowering and
Yes.
you're helping and you're mentoring. And truly, that's where your wisdom starts to be refined and developed. There's a saying, out of the mouths of babes, right? Out of that wisdom
Yes.
comes. Well, it's the same as we age. The more that we're teaching, the more that you're learning yourself, right? The teacher shows up when the student is ready to
Yes.
learn. And
Definitely.
that mutually symbiotic relationship gives you just as much as an education as it does to the student. So don't shy away from that ever.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for just, sharing your testimony, your stories, your life, and your businesses. You know what? Something is telling me to ask you this question, so I'm going to ask. And
Okay.
so I went to Louisiana to visit my ancestor. It's called Broussard Cemetery, and it's in New Iberia, Louisiana. When I went to go visit my family, I sat down and I was talking to them, letting them know in the spiritual world I need their support as I run for office. And I heard whispers. It kind of freaked me out, you know what I mean? Because it was so many whispers. What do you? I'm assuming they were happy to see me, but as a spiritual person, like, what would you dissect that as?
So I'm instantly, when you're saying that to me, I was feeling a pulling on my head, and I asked for clarity. I'm like, what are you trying to tell me to share with her? And what
Yes.
I'm hearing is to remind you to stay out of your head. Stay out of your head. Stay in your heart. And as you're running this campaign, if you're in your head, you're dead, right? If you're in your
Mhm.
heart, you're going to open up to everybody. So they're saying, stay out of your head. Don't let the thoughts that are overtaking you run away with what you're
Yeah.
trying to communicate. Continue to communicate straight through your heart. But I'm literally getting a pull on the head. So don't get too heady or concerned with all
The drama.
stuff that has to go on to make it all happen. Pull back to your soul and your center and speak from your heart.
I needed to hear that because let me tell you, it's a running for mayor is very overwhelming, and but what keeps me focused is the community. So every time I have these self doubts, these negative things that pop out, I kind of like push them out the way and I say, no, the community needs me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing this because it's for my community. They need somebody to represent them because that's all they've had said to me is we need a voice. We don't have a voice. And so I want to be their voice. So thank you so much. I'm happy you shared that with me because I'm just like, man, I'm too much. I'm a thinker, overthinker. Like I overthink things too much.
Yeah. I already got the lift of that clarity in my head. So you definitely received that well. And that's confirmation for me that, oh, yeah, that's exactly what you needed to hear. So
yes.
Just follow that advice.
I am, honey. I am. That's why I ask. And when my spirit kind of, my inner spirit, when it, says like, go ahead and ask. And sometimes I'm, like, oh, I don't want to bother her kind of thing. But I'm like, no, I need to ask because this is what's going to keep me going. It's going to keep me going. And November 8th, 2022 will be here. And then we'll see what God has in store for me.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I wish you nothing but the best, but I think you already got this. I think this is written.
Oh, thank you.
Written in the heavens and written in the stars.
I love it. I love hearing you. It just makes me feel, God is giving me a confirmation through you because there's a lot of people that have told me that, and so now my next step, this week is to, when I go to San Diego to Coronado Island, I'm going to start writing my acceptance speech.
That's exactly what you should be doing.
Thank you so much, Miss Pixie. I'm just so grateful that, you're just such a beautiful being, a human being and just full of wisdom. And I can't wait for our show to air on Luxe Media Studios. Until then, thank you so much and have a blessed day.
You too. Be the blessing you already are.
Oh,
cheers.
Thank you.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient Nascar. Nascar increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.